Hello everyone, we're back painting the Pariah. Here's where we left off. Today we're going to paint some metal parts. We're going to paint the cape, and yeah, so let's get going. I want to use more goldish, cold gold colors with some purple undertones in order to create a nice continue with the nice cold ambience of the figure. I will use, why is the camera autofocus freaking out? Just look, it's right there, okay? Continue with this nice cold color palette of the that we've used. Continue using some of this glacier blue as the highlight color that we've used throughout. And we will start to sketch in some of the lights that we have. Okay, so I'm going to jump straight into using the old glasses here, because I need to see these tiny parts. So what are we going to paint gold? So gold, we're going to do the face mask, the knee pads, the codpiece, the rings, and then we have some very small steel elements that we can do, like here, maybe the little rings of his, whatever you want to call it. Right, and then we've got the cross here around his neck. We'll come up with something for that. Okay, so let's get cracking. So you can see this has got this, it's close to black, but it has, when I kind of thin it out, you can see it has this bit of like a purpley brown undertone to it. Right, so we'll take some of that. We'll add just a little bit of the blue to get this sort of cold yellow gray kind of thing. Okay. So when you're doing something like the face mask here, it has a lot of little filigree to it, right? So I'm going to kind of ignore the filigree at first and just get the sort of rough shape of the light that I want in, right? Sorry, trying to stay very close up. But yeah, I just want to get a bit of the general light, and then we can focus more on the little tiny shapes to it, okay? So you can see this is definitely like a warmer color, but I wouldn't call it like a really intense, like warm brown, right? It doesn't have like much orange in it. But in terms of how warm it is compared to the rest of the figure, it's quite warm and should contrast nicely with all the purple that we have. Have you gotten to play the Death Watch Kill Team yet? Are they any good? No, they're terrible. Don't play them. I want to be the special snowflake, and you guys aren't allowed to play Death Watch. They're my thing, and they're awful. No, they're good. I wouldn't call them, like, I think there was some fear that they were busted, like when people first read the rules, and I definitely don't think that's the case, but they are strong. OMG broken. Okay, so you should be able to see a bit of that color. Zeus, hello. All right, so here we're going to grab a little more. We're going to start to add some light. I'm kind of following just sort of where I see most of the light hitting from the lamp. You can kind of gather where your main reflections are going to be on your metallics based off of the reflections you see in the light. Like here, if you look at the knee there, right? Like, where do you see the light hitting? It's kind of here. These will be like the main points, right? And then it'll get weaker from there, but it gives you at least an idea of where the main reflections should go. Thanks, Newton 40K. Hi, Mo's Magic. How are you? Okay, so that's sort of where our main reflection points will be. Then we can extend it outwards from there and create secondary reflections and things to make it more interesting. Like, you can't really see much of this side of the face knee pan from the main view, so we can introduce like a secondary view. It's like there's a new reflection from this side. I feel like I'm not quite high enough. All right, there we go. Right, so even if it's just something rough like that, just to get sort of an idea where they go, right? Then we can begin to add a little more. So what'll often happen with metal and filigreed metal like this is when it gets very shiny, you basically have bloom, right? So the light is so intensely reflecting off of certain parts that the light blooms out and kind of reduces the amount of shadows there are. Even though they might be there, like you would have really intense contrast in some of these filigreed sections, just the amount of reflected light can often be enough to overpower the shadows a little bit, and you get what looks like a reduced shadow, but it's our eyes playing tricks on us. Okay, I might need a colder yellow here than what I have. Let me see how I feel if I just keep adding blue. It gets pretty cold, I guess. It might work without needing something like this. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. So I'm kind of thinking of this filigree, right, as a reflection point. Like there's kind of a circle of light sort of here. That then gets a little weaker as you go out from that. But then you also have the filigree that will catch light, right? I can introduce like a secondary kind of reflection on the edge. See, Eric, with the you have to understand kind of that there's certain undertones. Like this is a very weak blue for one. It's mostly white, right? So that's not going to desaturate a lot because it's mostly white. And then if you look at this color, as we thin this out, you can see that this color has more of a yellowish undertone to it as it gets thinned out, right? So you can see as it goes over, gets thinner and thinner, right? It's not just brown, right? It's more yellowish. Okay, now we will push the light even more. We've got to go way up in the light in order to get to a really bright highlight point. But as we go, we want to make sure this light shrinks. Because we don't want to cover, if we cover too much here, it stops looking yellow, right? We lose the midtones, and we don't want to lose the midtones. We want to make sure we maintain those. So these brighter highlights need to get smaller and smaller until they're just little point reflections. Like on the darker side of his mask here, I need to include some just because of the shape of the filigree. Would catch this light, but we want to make sure it's smaller than on the main light side. Right, and then you could start to get that metallic feeling to it, you know? So now the shadow side is kind of looking metallic-y, right? But this side's not quite. So what does the light side need? Well, it probably needs for me to come back. Probably needs for me to come back and deepen some of the shadows here. From one. So there's that. And then we've got to push the light even more. Okay, I love how just about everything that comes out of your mouth is teaching. I can't help it. It's just now become the instructor in me. Never claimed to be an entertainer. And we want to really push this light up. Now, see, we've got that really bright, intense highlight. And his mask should feel pretty gold. We might have to come in and restore a little of these secondary lights. We can also do things like outline under his nose in order to give that a little more definition. We can use some more yellowish tone to outline the bottom of the face mask. Basically, the goal here being to just give a little more definition to the shape. So I'm glad you find the videos helpful. So, right, even though, so I didn't paint all the filigree the same, right? So the idea here is that there's this section of light kind of running through the face mask right here that lights it up more than the rest. And you get, the result is a stronger light source there, okay? Fix his nose. And there's a little bit here on the side that I want to adjust. So you can see that there's a few, I'm going to kind of angle him this way. There's a couple of this part. Doesn't quite light up as much as I would like. That feels better. Now, if I was going absolute psycho mode, I would probably sit here and like really try and refine every single one of these lines like crazy so that there's like more reflections and little micro reflections that happen like in between the filigree. But in the end, it is a gaming figure. And there is a thing called diminishing returns. Okay, so one gold face mask. So we should be able to see how that kind of works with the rest of the color, right? It stands out, it brings nice attention to his face. But it's not saturated like the red is, you know? Like the red is really punchy. So it doesn't, it fits within the color harmony of the piece, like the yellow hair and all the purple complements well, right? But it's not punchy like the red is. Okay, makes sense? I hope so. If not, feel free to ask why. I'll try and explain it better. Every time I see a codpiece, I just think of episode of Metalocalypse where he's like, "Oh, yeah, check out my way cool codpiece." Hello, Steve. You just sub to get rid of the ads. It's working perfectly. All right, so the Bezo box. So we're going to continue with the same methodology, right? Just pushing the light of the main reflection, and then we will introduce more little secondary reflections as we go, thinking about sort of the shape and where the light's going to hit, right? Or not so much hit when it comes to metal, but where you would see a reflection of the main light source, which in this case, who knows what it is? It's the exhausted, it's the, not the exhausted, it's the lantern horde, I guess. I don't know. Depends on which campaign you're playing, what the light source is. Sometimes it's the sun. The sun. Boots loves some Miyazaki. Like if you like guys like Dark Souls, you'll like some Kingdom Death because it has a very similar let's say limited storytelling. A lot of it is sort of left up to you to kind of just figure out. No, not what's the name of that studio? Studio Ghibli, yeah. Ghibli, right? So you can see how yellow this comes across, how much warmer this is compared to the final one, right? So as we go through purple, like a complementary color, into the mid-tone, which is more yellowish, like a more yellowish on slightly on the orange side, right? And then as we add more blue, this blue-white, it kind of desaturates a little bit and starts to cool it off, and then by having more white. This is why it's really easy to like completely desaturate your colors by over highlighting everything, right? Like if you look at the red, really what's the brightest red? The brightest red is like this even maybe slightly pinkish red, but still quite red. It's like the same value as this. No one's complaining about the red not having enough contrast. You can if you want, I don't care. Go ahead, complain. Complain away, it's the internet. You don't need my permission. So this is a very specific thing on metallics. I'm going to try and zoom way in so you can see this. So we've got like 3 ridges here. 1, 2, 3. Then we have a flat, but so 3 ridges, a valley, sort of a flat valley here, and then another ridge, right, that spirals around. I am trying, okay, to connect those two, the valley to the ridge, all right? This is a very specific thing that you will see happen on metallics. Is that this ridge here, as it comes down, it's going to move onto the flat of the plane, and then this inside edge will kind of chase down, right? And you get this sort of V or like zigzag M shape thing as the light sort of chases around the different shapes. Right, so it comes down, connects down here, then it comes back up. So you get this like V-shaped sort of highlight. It can be a kind of hard thing to see, like when you're observing metallics, but if you pay attention, you will often see this rhythm. So here, right? Look right here, right? As this swirl curves up and around, one goes up and over and one chases the inside. Right, so it's not when you're painting non-metallics, okay, especially more filigreed non-metallics like this. It's not always painting the outside edge, right? The raised edge. It's about painting the inside edges too. Basically, you just want to define the change in plane. Pariah, hello, thanks for following. Welcome. Pokey Me Amber, hello. Or is it just Poke Me Amber? I don't know. Hi, how are you? Would the highest highlight be in the middle or closer to the top? Or could either work? It depends on the viewer's perspective, but here it's going to be a little closer to the... It's going to be at like the 45, assuming that the viewer is looking at him from the front and the light is coming in from above, right? I saw your Death Watch on Instagram. Really good job. Thank you. Yeah, it's having a hard time with some of these like really tiny details. Trying to get it though. Okay, so even something like that can work, but we can introduce like a second light coming from below, or like it would be like maybe some metallic reflection of his leg or something like that, you know? So we can push this a little more. What we can do if we want to make it like more pale, right? We can take a little more of this and start to add some white so we get a slightly more grayish sort of tone. Yeah? You can see the difference. Bye, Dom. Okay, so now on the other side, right, we can start to introduce this sort of secondary reflection on the lower portion. In order to make a more interesting metallic. Right, and then I just need something here to separate the two, right? So we have the slightly lighter reflection of the ceiling, or the slightly dark, more desaturated of his ground or leg or whatever it is, right? And then you have the more lighter reflection from above. All right. So, man, what a way cool cod piece he's got. Sometimes I like to take a little bit of this dark color, just sort of glaze it on some areas that I want to tone down a little bit. This will make the main highlight a little more intense. Do you guys ever watch the old Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet? You remember that one? It was like, not the DiCaprio one, but the other movie. They all had cod pieces on their pants. We got to bring back, we got to bring that back. Why isn't that in style anymore? I need to show off my male virility by wearing a really big cod piece. Some of the old armor, like super funny to look at. Just have this big old banana cod piece coming out. Bring it back, huh? Let's bring back the fashion trend. Powdered wigs and cod pieces, y'all. Capes and cod pieces. Yeah, but only those like little annoying capes, right? The ones that like come down to the middle of your back. None of these like, we don't need any like functional cloaks to keep the rain off of it. Just these annoying little capes. I would make some statement about like people wearing crazy stuff like powdered wigs, but then I remembered what Scene Kids did with their hair in the early 2000s, and I really don't think there's any difference. Eric, when are your streams? Usually Wednesday and certain Fridays. Friday is Feedback Friday. Wednesday is my normal stream night. And then occasionally I will have special event streams on a Saturday, but those are more occasional. But actually, what time? This time? Yeah, like 6 p.m. normally. Friday changes. It'll either be in the evening or in the earlier afternoon, depending on when I feel like it. There is a special stream tomorrow. 6 p.m., not USA, Eastern US. The US has like 7 time zones, by the way. So you're in Europe. European time. Tomorrow there will be a special stream. And any Australians in the chat? Where's our Australians at? So tomorrow I will be streaming with another streamer. She mostly plays video games. She's Australian. Some of you might know her. Her name is Bubble. Bubbell. She wants to try out Warhammer. So I will be teaching her, going through the basics about Warhammer. Mini painting, all the basics. How to assemble, how, like, you know, different paints, like how to glue them together, how to prime. All the normal, from clipping them out of the sprue to painting them. So that will be tomorrow evening, about 30 minutes from now. So 8 p.m. Eastern time, or whatever time that is in one of the Australian time zones. The Aussie time zones. All right, so that's coming along. They give you, so I think that introduces an extra interesting little splash of color there. It helps break up a little bit, you know? Eric wanted to ask, should shadows have all the same value across a model? And would this also apply to midtones? Or does it depend on lighting? Kind of been struggling with this. Well, no. Shadows should not all have the same value. It depends on the color of it, like the local color of the material, right? Because the shadow of my shirt is way different than the shadow of this black, right? Right, if I go like this is in shadow under here, but this is darker, right? So it depends on it, like the shadow of my arm, right? So there's 3 different levels of darkness here. So it depends on the the material more than anything. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and then we will continue painting. BRB. Tomorrow, in the stream, I'm doing the special stream with Bubble. If you don't know her, she has like 350,000 subscribers on YouTube or something. She's got a gaming channel. Getting into Warhammer. She played Warhammer Space Marine 2. I'm going to do my best not to mansplain. And I appreciate it if you guys would be helpful, because I imagine her chat is also maybe not super familiar with Warhammer from a figure painting perspective, to also be helpful and answer questions. But no gatekeeping and no mansplaining. No, it'll be tomorrow a little later. So tomorrow a little after this time. Bubble. Can I link to her channel? Do I don't even know how to do this. Like / shout out? How do I do this? It's not man. Yes, it is still mansplaining if it has a certain connotation of you have. It's the tone of voice. Oh, it's just. So is it like this? I don't do these Twitch commands very often. Is it like this? No. Is it like that? There we go. I mean, I get dudes mansplaining Warhammer to me, so. Like any fandom, can be a bit of a preachy bunch. Do you get anyone mansplaining painting to you? No. I did give a guy a compliment on his army one time, and he went on to explain to me how a airbrush works. And I was like, cool. Just don't be a prick. Not that I think you guys will. I think you guys are a good bunch. We were all noobs at some point. I think he was just excited to talk to me about his army. I certainly didn't take any offense to it. When is Henry? Never. Not that ain't happening. Well, I guess I'll never say never. There is no current plans to I can't even imagine like what that would take to make happen. I'm sure there's like all kinds of annoying appearance things and stuff. Like, can I guess so? I don't know. It'd probably have to do with like agents and stuff. Like, can actors like that just have a live stream if they want? I don't know the rules when it comes to stuff like that. Even when I'm asked about painting at my shop, I start to ramble on and forget that most people coming to me are getting into it, and I'm standing there going on about different technique. Yeah. The one when I worked at a game shop was people explaining to me how about their Magic the Gathering deck, and you're just like, cool. Let me tell you about my commander deck. So this guy, you've maybe never heard of him. He's Nekuzar. Uh, he makes you take damage when drawing cards. Like, yeah, dude, I know who Nekuzar is. I don't think I'd want to be a gaming streamer. Can you imagine how much backseating you get as a gaming streamer? especially gaming streamers that play like old games, you know, like games that have been out for a long time. They're like, I'm gonna go back and play this classic game. Let me tell you where everything is and how you're not playing it optimally. Yeah, I don't think I'd do that. I think I would just ignore it. So I like to do these little secondary highlights, or not really highlights, these secondary reflections on the metal here. It just breaks it up. I mean, we're gonna have to add the top edge on all of them anyways to really give them definition, but breaking up these cylinders into like little smaller reflections can often make this more interesting. He has no eyes. They're just sockets. So here, like another way to think about do this is like when you're doing these ground reflections, you can actually, you might find it easier sometimes to just flip the model over like so and paint these lower reflections like this. Right? So that can get you a little more, if it makes sense to you that way, to like invert it so you can think about, because we're used to painting more light from below, right, or more light from above, right? So sometimes flipping the figure upside down, or in the case of Pariah, flipping him right side up, can help to imagine some of those lower reflections. Hi, Steve. All right, so getting that kind of main light source there, getting some of the lower reflections. Just woke up from a nap, dude. Sick. Naps are awesome. All right, who's power nappers and long nappers? I'm a long napper. I can't do the 30-minute nap. A nap is like 2 to 3 hours. My nap is 14 hours. That's a coma. You don't nap, you coma. Because everyone can relate to naps, dude. Roulette napper, taking a. Hey, that's also me. If I fall asleep, this is the nice thing about being self-employed. If I lay down for a nap, it's all right, man. I make my own hours. Like, it's too bad I've gone to bed. You know, it happens. That's okay. My roommate can do it. He falls asleep in the recliner for like 30 minutes and then wakes up. He's one of those people that can fall asleep anywhere though. Like those people are kind of crazy to me. It's like, oh, we're driving to dinner, gonna fall asleep in the car for 10 minutes. I can fall asleep on an airplane. I fly enough to definitely be able to fall asleep on an airplane, but it's not easy. I have to be tired. I can't just like, yeah, I'm bored. I think I'll take a nap now. Highway hypnosis is real for me. I have definitely driven and will not fall asleep, but zone out to the point where you're just like driving on autopilot and you get to the place where you're going and you're like, how did I get here? They do not. I know very well, Flapjack, that they do not make planes for people that are 6'4". I know that all too well. I have joked many times that if I won, I only play the lottery when it goes over $1 billion. And then if I won, you guys would have no idea, other than I would show up to Adepticon in a private jet. Nothing about my general lifestyle would change other than that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. You don't need a jet that's extra tall when you can lay down on a bed. Could you imagine filing my taxes? Well, I operated my miniature painting business at a negative $2 million loss this year because I flew everywhere on my private jet. And everybody who gives Taylor Swift shit. Now, I will admit she probably overuses her jet to like fly back and forth to cities instead of just staying in a hotel. But like, I'm just saying, if you could do it, if you had the option, you probably would too. Oh, I know. I've looked it up. All right. I've gone down that rabbit hole. It's like going on Zillow for mansions even though you can't afford one. I've definitely looked into the cost of a private jet. Like shopping around for a private jet that you definitely cannot afford. Like, yeah, but which one should I get? Should I get the Gulfstream or which one's the correct multi-million-dollar private jet for my needs? Yeah. Yeah, if I was to buy a super yacht, which one? I think I do need a helicopter pad. Yeah, just a few thousand more. Oh, a carport? Yeah, dude, you need that ramp so you can just drive. Except I don't want to drive. Like my driver will drive me onto the super yacht, you know? Oh, I wouldn't be flying it. I would hire a pilot. And I've got a friend who's an aircraft mechanic. He's on the payroll, baby. No, I probably wouldn't own a super fancy car, actually. Pull up to my private jet in my Toyota Corolla. Another one is like hotels, people that spend a bunch of money on hotel rooms, you know, like giant suites and hotel, like super fancy hotels. Nah, I've stayed in some like nicer hotel rooms before. I don't actually like really stay in hotel rooms. I go to a hotel and then it's just sleeping. Does it have a bed? Does it have a shower? Exactly. Give me a bed and a bathroom. All right, here's the next question for the chat. If you won the lottery, the $1 billion lottery, what's the most frivolous thing you would spend money on? Higher counters, just remodel it. It's never really bothered me, I guess. But then again, I don't really do a lot of cooking, so the higher counters thing. Just adopt an orca and just, yeah, that's mine. Just put a tracker on him so you know where he's at. A full set of clone trooper armor from Star Wars and a full Green Ranger outfit. I don't even think that's that frivolous. I can't imagine that a suit of clone trooper armor is that costly. Isn't it just all made out of like vacuum form plastic? Dude, don't let your dreams be dreams. Like, you could probably afford that right now. Personal chef. Now that's bougie. Just having a personal chef at your beck and call. Just saw some hotel rooms cost $100K a night in Dubai. Yeah, that's insane. Like, what? I imagine it's like champagne and everything, and that's the kind of hotel where you're like, yeah, I'd like some Maine lobster. Could you get me some of that? Like, I know we're in Dubai, but that's what I could really go for right now. I think those are the kind of creepy hotels that they're like, you can ask for anything. And you're like, the way you said that's kind of weird. They're like, no, seriously, anything. An OG 4GT. Yeah, it's okay. That's I also love that car, and I love a Lamborghini Miura. Those are like multi-million-dollar cars. You guys don't have big trucks in... I thought you guys were like us in Australia where you have big trucks. Come on. I was like, you can fit into cars in the U.S. It's your Toyota Sequoia. Just have a you say you just want permanent life coaches. Just teach me the way. I'm decided I'm into this now. I will have one personal coach for this, please. What does that remind me of? Eric, would you stop doing this and go teach a billionaire to paint full time? Sure. Like what? I mean, how much are we talking? You know? I don't think I'd have to stop doing this because I don't think he would paint all day every day. So I'd probably still have time to do other stuff. Said a coach, not a personal painting assistant. Like I don't have to paint. He didn't say I have to paint, his army for him or anything. Just have to teach him how. Hi, Richard. $100K a month, I'll paint whatever dumb models you want. What dumb stuff you want me to paint? I'm painting Trench Crusade today? Alright, that's fine. I could handle that for a couple of years and put some money away. Me and my wife are pretty big Disney fans, and there's a place called Golden Oak in Florida. It's on Disney property, and there's a lot of bonuses for parks and stuff when you live there, so we would probably live there. Is your wife one of those huge Disney? What do they call it? There's a term for that. I don't know what the term is because I'm not. That's not my thing. Disney adults, yeah. Is that your wife? No judgment. I don't really care. Whatever you're into. Hi, Ellison. Hey, I like that you owned up to it. We are Disney adults. Some people will definitely be there tomorrow. Thanks, man. I had a question for the chat, Ellison. If you won the $1 billion lottery tomorrow, what's the dumbest, most frivolous thing you would buy? I'm buying the Gundam outside white base, the unicorn Gundam from. Just on that, put that on my front yard, see what the homeowners association thinks. Just why buy better season tickets? Just buy the LA Kings. Just buy the whole team. I don't even know. I don't think you could afford that with $1 billion. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it costs to buy a professional sports team, but I'm sure there's other investors and stuff that would be required. I'm surprised that a team like the Lakers or something wouldn't be more. I mean, they'd have to even be willing to sell it first. Very noble of you, Harumpenstein. Yeah, Lakers just sold for 10 billion. All right. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's what it was like. Big money. More than lottery money. Like, I wonder what something like Manchester United would cost. Inferno, thanks for the gifted stub. Appreciate it. Newcastle, really? And is Newcastle a? Sorry, this is going to. I don't know all. I know some of the Premier League teams, but I don't know all of the Premier League teams. Is Newcastle United a Premier League team? I am actually surprised that any Premier League team is less than $1 billion. You think Cowboys would go for the most of any U.S. sports team? I don't think so. I would guess he did. He bought into, but they're not Premier League. They're Championship League. I don't know how they did that. Hype train from one gifted sub. Got me, dude. I don't know what the settings are at. The default. Yankees are around $8.2 billion. Ooh. I would think that the Patriots would be worth more than the Cowboys, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Cowboys have more general mass appeal than the Patriots. $10.1 billion. All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Edfardo. I appreciate you. Thanks for the 6 gifted sub. 23 total in the channel. Thank you very much. The solo hype train, yeah, man. It's killing it. I can't, sometimes I don't see primes. I think you have to like say, hey, here's a prime sub. I think you have to like announce it sometimes. So if someone did a prime, if Salty did a prime, then thank you. But I don't always get, and there it goes, it popped up there. It says it's tier 1 a minute ago. Weird. Yeah, I mean, what's called huge. Do I get to pick a... I was like, what's happening? Have a good night. Here we got into buying sports teams. Let's just imagine. So does that mean that the Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise in the world? More than Manchester United? More than Real Madrid? Real Madrid? Texas loves their football, man. Everything is bigger in Texas. I did see the high school stadiums. And I say that as literal stadiums of high school football teams in Texas. I was like, hey, who plays here? And they're like, Ray was like, oh, that's the high school team's stadium. I was like, what? Lucipusu. Thanks for the gift, the tier 1. The gift in the tier 1 sub. Thank you, thank you. The difference is that Real Madrid may have 3 billion fans and maybe 500 million of them have actual purchasing power, where the Cowboys might have 1 billion fans and 800 million of them have purchasing power. That makes sense. I got this bear. These emotes are so weird for the hype train. We're not a big emoting crowd around here. On your grays, your gray knights, is that what we're talking about? Or is this something else? Like grays is in the color gray. Or grays is in unpainted models. Like building models. Yeah, there you go. Pile of my pile. I'm trying to lower my pile of shame. I could literally walk across the room and just grab a handful of unpainted Kingdom Death figures. They're put together. Just a handful of them. Speaking of Grey Knights, that feels like an army I could be so interested in if they had models produced within the... Dude, you're telling me I'm waiting for a new... If and when a new Grey Knights kill team comes out, I will definitely paint them. Okay. So, there's probably some still little detail, but I feel like I'm fiddling here with the knee pads and stuff in the rings. So what I'm probably gonna do is take a quick break, kind of paint this, maybe paint a few of the steel parts, and then we're gonna work on the cape. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with this thing coming out of the forehead. Face statue. Yeah, he's gripping a ring. So really the model is like this. I guess it helps to see the cape too. But he's a vampire who's like gripping to the ceiling. So with his cape, he looks like that. Would a Grey Knights kill team be just one dude? I mean, that's what like a Custodes team should be, but I hate the Custodes, so no, you would make it like 5. If like 5 guys, it's the same as like Death Watch, right? I don't think Grey Knights are really any scarier than Death Watch in terms of their power within the lore. I mean, 5 Death Watch guys fight against 14 Imperial Guardsmen and kill teams, so it's not like the power scaling is exactly you know, lore accurate. I'll show you you just imagine the board being upside down. So some people have not seen the upside down survivors, right? So these are, well, he's not the best example because he's standing upside down like this, but he's hanging from the ceiling because you can see like this is dangling, the lantern's dangling, the pouches on his side are all dangling. But when you do like this guy, right, it starts to make a little more sense. So when you play them, they play like this, right? The Archer one's cool. I really like this one. You get 4 survivors, 5 if you're playing with scouts. So it's 4 survivors against the monster, a 5th if you're playing the scout, but the scout is not to quite the same combat level as the other survivors because they are limited on how much equipment they can carry because they're too busy carrying other stuff around. She's pretty cool too, the spear. I think they're all really neat. But yeah, this is the concept behind it. So you just imagine when they're fighting the monster that they're all dangling from the ceiling, and he is too. He's just like, I'm upside down. He doesn't care. They're all bangers, except for the original mix and match armor set survivors. Hello, you know what time it is? You know that sound? You guys recognize that? Yeah, boy. It's airbrush time. It's a little dirty. That's okay. So, we are going to paint the cape with the airbrush. I am going to do, I would like a kind of like darker purple color for it. So what I'll probably do is use some sort of like reddish tone here. What do I want? Oh, hold on, I gotta grab something else real quick. Okay, so I want like a deep reddish color. Maybe something like cardinal purple. So we're going to use the white to our advantage here. The white undercoat. I'm going to use this reddish contrast paint. I will get it on camera so you can see. Something like that. And contrast or express paint, whatever you want to call it, speed paint, right, can be a little glossy, be a little satin. So I like to mix some I like to add a little matte varnish. This is a good time to use some ultra matte. All right, add a little water. Grab a nice an old brush here. Give a little mix. Okay. So you can see this is what I'm aiming for. It's like a bit transparent. You'll see when I spray it over this with the black that you can see the black kind of stays black, right? So we're just going to get this nice and covered. So this gives us like an initial layer, right? An initial layer of color to it. We're going to add more depth than just this, don't worry. But we're just trying to get some base color down, some light and shadow, and then we will make adjustments as we go. So the next thing for me here would probably be to take a, once this is dry, all right, so that gives us our initial color. You can see even with the matte varnish mixed in, it's pretty shiny. But as it dries, it's gonna dull down a little bit. We want to make sure we get all the primer covered, and you can see it doesn't make the black, like it doesn't cover the black at all. So if we want to add color to the shadows, we're going to have to use a more opaque paint in order to get some color in there. All right. So something like that. All right. Now I have a little bit left in here. And in order to give some coverage to this, I'm going to add some of the glacier blue to this. And this is going to make it a little more pink and cool it off a little bit, get closer to like a wine red, you know. We might have to add some more of the red back in depending on how light it is. But it's okay if it's really light, because we can always go back with the transparent again in order to go back over top of this. But I can look at that and guess that that's probably slightly lighter than what I want. So I'll add another drop just to darken it a touch. Okay. So now from above, I'll give a little bit more light to some of the folds. Okay, so you should be able to see there. So we have something like that, right? Now I'm going to do the same thing. I didn't bring the thing over here, so we're just going to do it like this, and then dump it in to the paint pot, a water pot. Just get it spraying mostly clear. Like I'm going to add another color in here anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. I'm going to grab some of this guy. Okay, so this is a nice dark purple color. Right, you can see how like it probably looks black on camera. Okay. And then water that down pretty good. If you guys are having problems with it being like your paint being too speckly, you know, you're probably not thinning it enough in your airbrush. So thinning it a little more and doing a couple more layers typically can get you a smoother result. So if you're finding that it's too, yeah. Okay, you should see now, you should be able to see now it's purple, right? So if it's too speckly looking, just try thinning it a little more. But now I can come in from underneath. And this one also doesn't have a ton of coverage. So you're going to see it's going to just like shift these blacks to this like, it'll now have this like purple, really deep undertone to the black. Some of that purple gets picked up in the midtones. I want this very dark feeling to the cape. I'm not aiming for like a bright pink cape here. I want it to be like a deep purpley wine red sort of color. So cover a little more. Right, so now it starts to really look more like a purplish cape with like a bit of this light pink kind of highlight to it, right? Sort of magenta-y highlight color. Really, this part back here doesn't really matter because it's all behind his collar. All right. So, something along those lines. Now there might be parts I need to come in and hand touch with the brush just to add a little more volume. But then I can always go back to the airbrush, right? To kind of blend it in. Is that a join line? There might be one here somewhere, right here. You probably see it where I didn't do the best job, but that's okay. When it's matte, it'll disappear a little more. Okay, so all right, you just build up the color slowly. It's about building it up slowly. Let me grab the lid to this so it doesn't dry out like instantly. One second. Is that the right lid? I think so. Yep. Okay. Okay, so let's see how it looks on him, all right? So there's kind of the color it is, right? So I think it mostly works, but maybe I want to make some little adjustments here and there, okay? So maybe it's slightly too pink for me right now. So what I can do, we'll get these guys out of the way. So now we're going to come back in and we're just going to punch in a couple lights that are maybe a little more purple, right? Come on. There it goes. So let's come back in with this guy. And we could use this deep magenta. All right. Okay. Let me turn that off too, because I don't want to hear it. I don't normally airbrush at this desk. I airbrush at a spray booth on the other side of the room. But I don't have a camera set up there, so this is what we have to deal with. Okay, so let's mix up a light color. Right, this is a little more desaturated than what we had before. This is maybe like slightly too pink, so you should be able to see the difference in the color here. Even grabbing just a touch of the yellow will desaturate the color a bit. All right. All right, so now we just want to basically, where this is like maybe slightly too pinky for me, I'm gonna overdo some of the lights here. Can you guys see the difference in that color, right? Then I'm gonna exaggerate some of these volumes a little bit just to get a little more of a natural, like, hand paintedness to it. I can reuse the airbrush to like blend this back in, but this will give me some of these volumes back that maybe got a little lost. Also avoid a bit too much of that like airbrushy feeling that you can get from doing it entirely this way. So I can do some like long, more natural brush strokes to create some rhythm to the fabric in order to achieve a more interesting feeling overall to the lighting. At a comp level, do you see airbrush finish as much? I mean, if you look at someone like Pasarski, like he uses an airbrush a lot. So even just something like that, just to sketch in some lights. And we'll do the same on the back, trying to be pretty broad with the lights here. Or the strokes to get these volumes in. So I'm looking at like the shape of the folds here where the airbrush already kind of caught, but I want to maybe exaggerate a little, right? Because the airbrush, it can look very sterile. Don't remind me. I've got stuff to finish. I think it's a little more, slightly more than 3 weeks. Maybe it is. I don't know. Not an SMC piece. I'm not entering SMC. But I've got to finish my Golden Demon entry. No, there's still pink there. It's just like still reddish, right? But it's just not as like magenta-y saturated as I want it, because I want the, in the end, I really want the red of his collar to be like the intense red. So it's like, right, so I'm trying to tone it down, that pinkish down a little bit, because I don't want it to be that vibrant. You know? Know what I mean? Which category? I'm not saying there's a secret. Okay. So now I'll take just a little bit more of the purple, create a little bit of a mid-tone just to transition some of these harsher spots real quick. Just do like a rough blend on them. Like here where it's really rough, right? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Right here, like up here. . Whoa. And these 3 shows back to back, you see, is why I'm not happy with the date change to Nova, or to not Nova, LVO, but they don't care what I think, so that's fine. Assuming LVO is always going to be, yeah, October moving forward, correct. As far as I know, anyways. Not like I'm in the loop or anything. Okay, so now we get something like this, right? It's very sketchy, but it's got more shape to it that's a little more painterly, I guess, in terms of like volume than just the very like sterile flat airbrush, you know. So for me, it's a little more interesting looking. But then we can come back with the airbrush, which means I need to turn it back on. The world's quietest compressor. It's not. Right, and I've still got purple in here. So now I'm just going to come in and begin to, well, first I need it to actually spray because there's dried paint on the end. Come in. Come in. What's your problem? There it goes. Might need to add just a touch more water to this. You can backwash to mix the paint a little bit. Maybe even more water. It wasn't, it's not on that much. Like, it's not on right now. There, it kicked on just for a second, and now it'll turn back off. It's a Spar Max. It's fine, it works. Okay. So now I'm looking for these to kind of just like softly blend in between. Maybe I need to zoom a little bit so you guys can see a little better. Right? So you can sort of see here, right, where it's like right here where I'm pointing with the cone, right? Where it's not super blended. So we're just going to lightly spray that. And then voila. When it dries, it's gone, but we still get a little bit of that brush stroke. Just spray that down there because that's all behind the collar. Okay. So just sort of the goal, right, is just to reduce those lines, soften the lines out. So you went bright, yeah, exactly. So I want the cape to be really dark. And then at the very end here, I'll come back and add some like finishing touches, you know. I prefer to work subtractively with the airbrush. I find it sprays smoother going to shadow than it does trying to build up to the light. Whiter pigments are larger, so they tend to be more grainy. So that's why I prefer working the opposite direction with it. Okay, so we have some shape. Stop trying to fall off. Okay, so something like this. So we got a nice, what filter am I using? It's just a dark purple, right? All right, so let's set this aside for a minute. And then we can come back with a more detailed brush. Get rid of this. And come back to a bit of our highlight color. Air tank, shut up. Okay. And then I can just come in and just like apply some highlight. Whoop, let me get on camera. How about that? All right. Now I can hit some of these edges a little bit. Just to give a little more punch to the edge. But you can see places like here where that fold is now more obvious, right? And even that sort of thing, we can come in and just like lightly exaggerate some of these if we want. Trying to be a little more careful, but just like hit that fold to give it a little more oomph. Not really trying to paint a edge highlight, you know, I'm just trying to accentuate the fold a little bit. You could like do it a few times, you know? There's no like, you could really exaggerate and then lightly hit it with the airbrush. Like, it's a very back and forth process. So, this like style of kind of quick airbrush blending. So it's up to you how many times you want to do it. But it's easy to just like paint another layer, exaggerate a little bit, hit it with the airbrush, or you can try and be a little smoother. This, I don't think I really need to come back and like re-airbrush it, right? It's like, it's smooth enough. Just trying to catch some of those shapes a little bit more. Hi, Go Studio. Right, like catch a little highlight here. Maybe inside this. Catch a little highlight there. All right, just give it some shape. Because I have talked before that the airbrush does not do specular highlights well, right? So if you want to add specular highlights to things, the airbrush is not the way to go. It's too directional. So this little final step, right, can often add quite a bit in terms of, yeah, final finish to it and make it look less airbrushy. Would you glaze when not using an airbrush, or you always do it this? No, I don't always do it this way. This is speedy shortcut method. Sometimes I do it all by hand. Come on, Perceptron, you've been around here long enough. You should know by now that I don't believe there's one way to do anything. I'm just showing y'all one method. Okay, so you got a nice dark cape like that. It needs to be sprayed, but guys, Eric's cheating. He used the airbrush. whatever gets you the result that you want. It depends. I mean, it's pretty simple when you have a detached cape like this, but if you're painting something bigger, you know, like, is it worth the effort to then, like, mask the cape? Should you paint it first? Should you leave it unattached? Like, me, it's like, what can I do to get the result I'm looking for in the easiest, not necessarily easiest, but you know, most efficient method. Don't necessarily need to do things the hard way. And sometimes using the airbrush on the model could then cause problems in other parts, so I might decide, you know what, it's just easier to do it by hand. All right, so that gets us a result like so. Maybe here, just want like this fold. I want this one to show up just a little bit more. That one's a little rough, so we can either exaggerate it or try and blend it out just a little bit. So you get sort of the best of both, where you can get like more expressive lines while also getting a pretty clean blended result. I like some intentional brush strokes on my figures if they're, you know, flowy and nice, right? It's like looking at those horrible Instagram filters of girls that use like, that makes them too smooth, and you're like, what is wrong? There's like something weird about this. The airbrush can be kind of the same thing, right? Where it's like, you're like, it's too smooth. It's something weird about it. Especially if it doesn't match the rest of your painting, right? So anyways, that's Pariah. Couple of little things to touch up and add on, but you guys get the idea. few little details here and there, but cool. I hope that was interesting. Covered a lot of random stuff on this guy. All right, so I will not be streaming next Wednesday. I'll be streaming tomorrow night. But I won't be streaming next Wednesday because I will be going to Montreal. Montreal, Canada, Quebec. So yeah.